Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to look at two teams in one, as well as give kind of a preview for their upcoming match. Today we're going to look at 100 Thieves and Optic Gaming, the Green Wall for Optic, and ex-Optic member Nadeshot owning now 100 Thieves. So we kind of have two representations of old Optic in the LCS now. Top lane, Someday and Zig, Meteos Acadian, Ryu PoE, Cody Sun, Arrow, Afro, Lemon. I think across the board, almost, you would give the advantage to 100 Thieves here. I think maybe in the early game, Acadian could expose Meteos. And then Arrow in lane, I expect to do better than Cody Sun, but because bot lane is the duo down there, I actually think 100 Thieves bot lane will beat out Optics in lane phase and then carry that through the mid lane game. I think Lemon Nation is a great leader. He's a wonderful voice to have. He's been in the league a very long time, a lot of experience, and that experience comes with mental fortitude. However, it's been a long time since Lemon Nation has been considered on a great team or has been considered himself a great support player. He's currently the oldest player in the LCS because he brags about it. But that age doesn't necessarily translate into ability to control his other four members of the team who are going to play their game their way. I think the Arrow Lemon Nation bot lane is incredibly awkward from Optic to put together. You have a really strong laning carry in Arrow last year on P1. The bot lane was centered around him. They had Stunt, Shady, and Adrian throughout the year. Arrow ultimately chose his support in a sense because that would give them the best option to win by just stomping lane phase and trying to carry the advantage throughout. I think this team is going to be really Optic is going to be really strong if it can get a lead. I just see a problem with them actually gaining the lead. I don't see Zig outright beating almost any top laner in the LCS this split, except for the question marks like Solo, Licorice, and maybe Lorlo. Acadian, again, we saw from Echo Fox last year, very high highs, but also low lows. When he was popping off, he was all over the highlight reels on champions that really enabled him to play his type of style of aggression and making early moves to secure leads for his team. But he has to play around Power of Evil this year instead of Froggen. I see both of these players, ex-EU mid laners, very similar in their playstyle, how they approach the game, more controlled. Oriana's, Anivia's, Azir's are their kind of wheelhouse, which helps them in this meta, but maybe doesn't necessarily equate to the same type of lane leads and aggression that players like Jensen or potentially Ryu gain for themselves. Okay, so we've talked a bit about Optic. Their bot lane is questionable. It seems like they're trying to combo an early game Arrow with a late game Lemon Nation to try and bridge the gap between those two players. However, I think communication is going to be a problem, laning is going to be a problem, and then Arrow staying safe while Lemon Nation has to move also being a problem. Flipping back over to 100 Thieves, I expect them to win this game against Optic. I think most, if not everybody, does. Someday in the top lane, ex-Dignitas player, looked really great when he came over, but also looked like he had some holes in his game that weren't there when he was in Korea. So coming from to North America with the language barriers and stuff like that, he had some communication issues with his Dignitas teammates. Some TPs were awkward or late. Him having to frontline for his team is a very communication-based role where you're in charge of face checking bushes, you're in charge of being the damage soak for the team so your carries can deal damage. I think you'd be a lot more at home on something like a Fiora, Jax, or Camille, something that can gain its own leads in lane and then push those leads through split push or intense pick potentialers, solo 1v2 potential to keep pushing his own leads, pushing the advantage for his team. Ryu and Power of Evil have actually played a lot in the past. Ryu, ex H2K member, Power of Evil's been on Origin, Misfits, across the European LCS, and these two actually have a pretty long history going back a number of years. So, as we talked about with Sunday's communication potential issues, I think Prolly will resort to the coach of 100 Thieves will resort to Meteos being the primary tank frontline player. Uh, Jungle's a role that can fulfill that very well right now with great meta picks, and Meteos is a player that's shined on them in the past. He looked great on P1 when he wanted to look great, if that makes sense. When he was really motivated to play, you could really tell by the way he asserted his dominance on the Rift. Ryu's very similar in this case too. At both XP1, both seemed to suffer from motivational issues towards the end when P1 started to really slump after Rift Rivals in the summer split. Because of this, I don't have them ranked as high as I think they can play to, but Afro is going to be the glue that holds them together this split. I don't think you can suffer from a lack of motivation with a character and personality like Afromu on your team. He's great at uplifting and bringing players up to his level when they might be disconcerted or frustrated at the game. His laugh is contagious in the sense that he will be a great fit for keeping this team together. And I think it's all going to rely on that crux for this team. If this team can be enabled to really believe in themselves and push themselves with Prolly coaching, carries like Ryu someday and Cody Sun to an extent, I think this team has a huge potential for upsets, huge potential to crush mid and late game team fights, but I worry about their early to mid game transitions. So I expect someday to do fine in lane, Ryu to do fine in lane, but the question marks from the early game for me would be Meteos and the bottom lanes. So if Meteos is on, say, a tank like Sejuani or Zac, that's obviously less early game impactful than, say, Acadian on a Kha'Zix. That could expose, Meteos in the early game. But while Meteos is on that tank, I think that gives him and Afromu a great synergy built in. I don't think they've been on a team together before, but I know they've definitely duo queued and have played together in that respect before. And I think they'll develop great communication and synergy throughout the season to really work together in, establishing vision, setting up plays, working well together throughout the map. And I hope Cody Sun isn't as exposed on the island like he was at times on Immortals last year when Ole would, abandon the lane in some senses to go roam or look for other plays. I think if Cody Sun can do that, though, if he can play safe, maybe picks like Sivir and Tristana being in the meta will help him in that regard, being more self-sufficient and self-sustaining alone in the bot lane, can really help him erase the memories of last year and some of the mistakes that he made and grow from those, learn from learn from them and really develop into a strong AD carry this year. Remember, he was the rookie last year too, right? So a lot of those mistakes can be forgiven because they can be learned from. But it's how the player obviously adapts and learns from those mistakes and brings them into the more experienced second full year of competition. So, kind of alluded to it before, I do expect 100 Thieves to win this game. I think mid-game, if things are stable heading into the mid-game, 100 Thieves should close it out quickly. If Optic can gain a lead, though, in the early game, like Acadian allows them the opportunity or the win condition to get there, then it's really going to be on 100 Thieves, Afro, and Meteos to kind of shot call their way back. Obviously, that's nothing unfamiliar to Afro Moo being on CLG last year, and they would keep getting aced before 20 minutes or taking these massive team fights that they would lose and then get set really far behind and have to kind of slowly grind and work their way back towards an even team fight that they could then, or close enough team fight that they could capitalize on and push a big objective after winning. So, 100 Thieves starting 1-0, Optic 0-1. I think that's no surprise to anybody, as many people have Optic as one of, if not the weakest teams in the league. And 100 Thieves sitting around the playoff bubble. You know, this 5, 6, 7 ish range.